Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're the hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every day, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can view all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues that affect you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
It's 5:30. I'll call to order this meeting of the Board of Public Works for the City of Fitchburg on November 4th, 2024. First item of business is call to order here, and we have a full committee here with Dave Wilburn, myself, Kim Lobdell, and Don Gutkowski present, and Dave Herbst remotely. Moving on to public appearances for non-agenda items. I see a couple of folks sitting out in the audience. Are anybody registered to speak? No? Okay. Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the October 21st meeting.
Approve.
I'll second.
All right, sounds like Don and Kim. Any discussion of the minutes?
6A. It says Don and Shockey Julie. Should it be Don and Julie Shockey?
Actually, that's an excellent question, but no, it's correct
okay.
as written.
Okay. It seemed like Shockey was more of a last name than a first name to me and Julie, but.
The only reason
okay.
I know this is because they live 2 doors down from me.
Oh, okay. All right. Then I have no more questions.
Okay. All in favor of approval of the minutes, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. All right, on to review items. Agenda 5A, budget amendment discussion, the increase in the Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District charges and related rate revenues. This was, I believe, spurred by Alder Herbst in our Committee of the Whole meeting. He wanted to have a discussion in front of the Board of Public Works.
Did you want to skip Tim's article?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Item 4, please.
Good eye. Yeah. How about a report from the Director of Public Works?
Thank you. A couple project updates. The 2024 street resurfacing project. We have a couple punch list items regarding the striping and restoration for that project. Once those are complete, the project will be complete and closed out. Our 2024 street maintenance project, that's our crack filling and chip seal. There's a couple minor striping related punch list items, and then once those are complete, the project will be closed out. Our 2025 ARPA street resurfacing project, bids were opened on Friday, November 1st, this past Friday, and we received 3 bids for the project. The apparent low bidder is Payne and Dolan Incorporated. They're the contractor that's been doing the street resurfacing for the last couple years for the city. Bids came in at $988,469. So we'll look to award that contract. I'll go through the referral out next Tuesday at council, and then look to award the contract at the end of November. And then work for the 2025 ARPA street resurfacing would commence in spring 2025. Our 2024 sidewalk replacement project, we awarded the construction contract to Potrikis Construction on October 22nd, and we held a pre-construction meeting last week, Wednesday, October 30th. And then we're looking to start either this Friday, November 8th, or the following Monday, November 11th. And then we're looking to complete the sidewalk replacement project by the end of this month. And our well number 12, drilling started. They installed the outer casing for the well to 73 feet of depth, and they demobilized the rig and going to be bringing on a new rig to continue drilling. We anticipate to complete drilling in either January or February 2025. And then our Tower D water tower, bids were supposed to be due last week, Wednesday. We extended the deadline to next week, Thursday, November 14th. With that, does anyone have any questions?
Why did you extend the bid?
The contractor that has installed every water tower for the city had requested to just some additional time to submit a bid. So we honored that, and are going to open next week, Thursday.
Tim, the well drilling, for some reason I have, when we opened up and we said the bids, we had casings down to 70. It sounds like you got to go a lot deeper.
While there's several casings, there's an outer casing,
Yep.
and that's what they installed down to 73 feet. And then there's going to be an inner casing that's drilled down to a depth of 500 feet.
I gotcha. So we don't have any overrun or anything.
Couldn't, no
Okay.
overrun.
All right. And then just as a follow-up, at the last meeting, we had talked about the sidewalk, and we had a couple presentations about it. You were going to follow up with them.
Yes,
What was the follow-up?
So we've reached out to Veridian. They're the developer for that, and we're waiting to hear back to try to schedule a meeting out on site to show them the sidewalk. Tracy Foss, the Assistant Public Works Director, before the public hearing did have a conversation with them previously about that cracking, and they were going to look into it. So we reached back out to them after the assessment hearing, and we're looking to schedule something on site to discuss that.
Tim, did Mark Hoddle say anything? I dropped stuff off at the Yardway site. It had filled up the entire parking lot by Sunday night. I don't know if I've ever seen it like that. Did they mention anything to you about that?
I have not heard anything. Mark's actually in attendance about that. Was your question on who dropped it off, or?
No, I'm just, the volume, I had never seen a volume that high. You know, the whole parking lot was filled up with it. I didn't know if that was unusual, or maybe Mark has seen that before.
Have you seen it, Mark? Yeah, he said he's seen it like that before.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, now we can move on to review items. 5A, Madison Metropolitan Sewer Charges and Related Rate Revenues. Tim, what do we know?
So this is a discussion topic that came out of the Committee of the Whole meeting last month. And Alder Herbst, you had requested we add this to the agenda for discussion, just to talk about the increase for MMSD's sewer charges and related rate revenues for their 2025 budget. So
that's correct. Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
What's transpired since the Committee of the Whole was on October 31st, MMSD did pass their operating budget with an 8-1 vote. And since Thursday, Misty also received the city's final number for next year. So I believe the amendment that she had put through was for $3,500,000, and the budget number will be $50,000 less, so it'll be $3,453,000. So she'll be requesting the alder who submitted the original amendment to do an amendment to the amendment for next week's budget adoption at council.
So on this for the boards, I just wanted the board aware, MMSD passes, changes their fees, and we passed this on without, this is prior to our rate increase. So I just want all the board members aware that this increase is coming, and it falls outside, we'll have a rate study, I believe this year or next year, but this increase from MMSD will just be directly passed to the ratepayers in their bills. So in case you get questions, that's where it's coming from.
Yeah, and you can see in the packet the amount increased from 3.2 to 3.45 million. Any other discussion?
It looks like they were going to raise it more and then had their own internal meeting and cut a couple things. And then, so the percentage increase is still more than what it was, but it's not as high as what it could have been. Is that your interpretation also?
Correct. And so the original budget at 3.2, the amendment was 4 to 3.5. Now the amendment to the amendment will be to 3.45. But yeah, the original increase was, I believe, like 7.5%, and that's being decreased to the overall. So originally it was a 7.5% proposal down to 6.5%, their budget. MMSD's overall budget.
When will that be reflected in our rates?
It'll be 2025.
2025?
So the first bill in 2025, you'll see that.
Will it come before us again with new sewer rates? Because this is just for the amendment for this, or is that automatic?
The new sewer, the city will be undertaking a rate study for sewers, or for the sewer system in 2025. So that wouldn't be effective till after 2025 when the rate study's done.
I just out of curiosity in this, and it's cut, so I wasn't overly excited about it, but there was like $40,000 for an artist in residence program. How's that related in any way to sewage and water? And are there other add-ons that didn't get taken off that are not, I would deem, appropriate to sewer bill?
Yeah, it appears MMSD has a artist in residence program in their operating budget. What specifically is related to that program, I'm not too familiar with it.
I imagine it's got to do with the storm drains and how you sometimes see a little mural painted on there telling people, this flushes to the lakes or whatever, and be kind and clean up your mess.
You're just guessing at that, or is that what you...
I'm guessing at that. I mean, I presume we've all seen, storm drains that have been decorated like that.
I don't think I have, but maybe they aren't in Fitchburg. I don't know. I was thinking artists in residence like ProMega has. They have a different person come and then they have a room and they put all their artist work out and everybody comes and looks at it and that kind of thing. But I was wondering the same thing as to what did that have to do with our sewer rates. Your answer makes a lot more sense if that's the way it is. But anyway, it got caught.
Yeah, which is good. Now I'm worried, are there other add-ons in there that aren't really related to
Does the city of
sewer and
Fitchburg have
wastewater
somebody
going.
on the MMSD board or somebody that attends these, they're operating, or looks at their operating budget?
So out of their commissioners, there are 3 appointed by the Dane County Cities and Villages Association. So that'd be the city of Fitchburg's representative would be, one of those 3. The other 3 are from the city of Madison. Mayor appoints it, and then 2 from the city of Madison.
Any other discussion? Okay, we can move on and talk about the updated snow and ice control policy. Tim, you want to do any sort of an introduction here?
Sure. We attached a red line version of the City of Fitchburg snow and ice control policy. The policy was last updated and reviewed by the Board of Public Works on October 21st, 2013, so a little over 11 years ago. I kind of included a memo. The red line version can sometimes be hard to follow and track. So the memo kind of lists 10 of the major changes. The biggest probably being revise the plowing to begin on Class 3 residential and Class 4 roads, which are the cul-de-sacs and dead ends, from starting plowing at 2 inches, revising it to 1 inch. And then we also added a couple sections to the policy. We added an additional area section for the Parks Division. This section specifies the policy for select pedestrian crosswalks and median openings. We revised the current weather link that we utilize. We updated the application rates for the de-icing application rates to be consistent with the Minnesota Pollution Controls Agency's Smart Salting and Roads Manual. We updated the plow routes map to our current streets, updated the snow routes map for Streets Division to reflect additional streets, and then we updated the snow routes map for the Parks Division to reflect additional bike paths, sidewalk, parking lots, and additional areas. The plow routes map, we actually removed from the policy, so that was a map that just showed the plow routes. Really the reasoning for removing it is it varies the routes, just because if we have a staff member that's out, it throws everything out of whack. And not all storm events, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, you may have certain guys go out early to plow the main arterials. Depending on the storm, there's a lot of variables. So the plow routes is more of an internal operations thing that we handle storm by storm versus including it in the policy. It's not just set every storm. It varies depending on the variables of the storm. With that, did anyone have any questions on the policy or the routes, maps?
I have a couple questions. Why did you go from 2 inches to 1 inch? I guess 1 inch seems like hardly anything, and if it's only 1 inch, it seems like it's going to melt in a short period of time. Most of the time, I guess, will this revision to this policy affect the budget for snow removal because you are going to be plowing more? I mean, what was the reasoning behind 2 inches to 1 inch? To me, it doesn't seem necessary.
So I'll have Mark here. I'll have Mark come up to the mic and kind of explain the reasoning and logic behind it. Mark, just hit that button.
A lot of times we're already in for 1 inch, doing roads like Fish Hatchery, McKee Road, Whalen Road, Seminole Highway, Lacey Road. Our main arterial roads we're pretty much in doing already. A lot of these side roads that are within neighborhoods, Richardson, Osmondson, those roads we do as well to keep clear.
Because they're class 2s, right? That's the ones in the 2s that you've already got. Okay.
And so, I mean, an inch of snow turns to an inch of ice if you don't get it off the road. There are times that we do leave it set within the neighborhoods if the pavement's warm enough, if it's going to be warm the next day. But to have the ability to get it off the road when needed is
So
good.
this is more of a guidance thing, it's not a mandatory?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's storm by storm, case by case. Mark mentioned that the surface temperature is very important. If it's below 32 degrees, it's not coming off the road. If it's going to be cloudy out, it doesn't come off as fast. So weather forecast plays a lot into the decision making. But it does allow us the flexibility to get it off. Also, the sooner you can get it off by mechanical means, the less you're using salt-wise, too. So it allows us more flexibility. So a trade-off in the operations and budget is, hey, more staff time to remove it. However, you're using less salt. It's more environmentally friendly to remove it by mechanical means.
Has there been any kind of an estimate as to what it could increase the budget by?
All depends on, no, we haven't done an analysis, but it varies, different years we get 70 inches of snow, 50 inches of snow, and does that all come at one time, or is it 2 events, is it 5 events? It would be a very difficult analysis.
I had another question on item number 3, but does anybody else have any comments on item number 1, going from the 2 inches to the 1 inch before I move on?
Well, I guess maybe just a little clarification. It's not like you're going to specifically send plows out to do cul-de-sacs when there's 1 inch, because you're already on the road and you'll be just adding the class 3s to your existing.
It's nice to have the flexibility if they're saying, we're in on a Saturday, they say Sunday's going to be 10 degrees out, to be able to get in and get it off before it turns to ice. They say Sunday's going to be 30 degrees, 35 degrees and sunny, we wouldn't do it. Mm-hmm. It's just nice to have the ability, if it's going to turn cold and turn to ice, that you can get it off without having to go back and just pour the salt to it to get it off.
So do you not do that now?
What do you mean, do I not do?
If it's only 1 inch and it's on a Saturday and the weather forecast for Sunday says 10 degrees, you are not allowed to go then and plow that cul-de-sac? I'm like, do you do that now? Are we implementing something or putting in writing something that you are currently doing anyways, I guess is my question.
Well, it's usually a conversation with Tim as to what, if we should be doing it. If we're afraid it's going to turn to ice, then we may.
I think there's been a couple times I've been here the last two winters, half of the first winter, and there's been a couple times where it's on that threshold where, Mark would call me, I'd make the call, hey, let's get it off, and it makes sense to do it. So this allows us to be within compliance of the guidelines.
I'm not totally opposed to it. When I first read this, I thought it was mandatory, and anytime you got 1 inch, no matter what it was, you were going to be out there, and part of me was like, is that really necessary? But I think the city of Fitchburg does a phenomenal job moving snow. Everybody that I talk to and all the people that work with me that live in Madison and other areas, and they're complaining about all the time, I said, you ought to move to Fitchburg because they've got their act together with snow removal. And our office is in Fitchburg, so when they come on the streets adjacent to that, they're always very complimentary. So I think you guys do a really good job. Like I said, when I first read this, I just thought, do we really need to go to 1 inch on the cul-de-sacs and the residential, if it looks like it's going to melt anyway? So I was looking at it more as a mandatory thing than a guidance or flexibility kind of an issue. So
I was going to ask, does this change your patrol routes, or do you have to add more personnel to it to keep or is it going to change your frequency on the blue line roads?
Routes are still staying the same. No staff is being added for this. So it'd be done within the current resources that we have.
So if you have a big snow, is it going to still give priorities to the blue routes, or will you divert to the other ones to try to get to the 1 inch?
Yeah, the
interval.
roadway classifications remain the same, so that's not changing. So the arterials would be dealt with first, then to class 2, class 3, class 4.
So you won't hit it with the same frequency if you go to 1 inch. You're not going to increase bodies, and you're going to increase lane miles now to try to keep at the 1 inch. You're not going to keep up with it with all the equipment you have, right?
We would keep up with it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just going to have more overtime. If you start out at 1 inch versus 2.
That depends because we're not, when we're plowing roads, it's not always overtime.
Well, it is on a weekend, isn't it?
Weekend, yes, but there's 5 days during the week that it snows too.
Yeah, but where I was coming from is the weekend deal. The more snow you get, the longer they're going to be out there, a time and a half, and double on Sunday.
Again, it's a call too with the weather and the forecast. If it is going to be sunny outside, if it is, the warm pavement temperature, we wouldn't be plowing when it's 1 inches. So this just allows us to get out there to do it. If the weather turns and cold and it's going to compact, and like we had the storm this past winter where the roads turned to ice and the temperatures drop.
Go ahead.
All right, I have a question on item number 3 that you talked about here, is that for, I guess, Class 1 major and Class 2 minor park classifications for the Parks Division. Once it gets to 3 inches, you're going to start plowing rather than waiting for the storm to end. What is the reasoning behind that? If it's still snowing like a banshee, you already got 3 inches, you're expecting more. How many people what are the Class 1 and Class 2 for the Parks Division? Are these paths? Are these, I guess I'm not really understanding. To me, it seems like if it's for the Parks Division, if it's a bike path and it's 3 inches and snowing like a banshee, why not wait till it's done and get it all at the same time?
So the Class 1 classification for park is city campus and the fire station parking lots. On all city-owned sidewalk and select bike paths. The Class 2 is what we consider our minor. Those are select parking lots and bike paths along with the ice rinks. Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong, but the reasoning and logic to go down to 3 inches is just our equipment. When the large snowfall events happen and say we wait and it's a 8 or 10 inch snowstorm and we're waiting until 8 or 10 inches accumulate, our equipment has a very hard time removing that snow removal. So, again, here, where we had to deviate from the policy a couple storm events because we were getting large snowfalls where they're calling the public works director up to see, hey, can we go out early because it is going to snow a lot. If city campus does have an evening meeting, this allows us to get out there to plow at 3 inches so people can get to the meeting. And
at what depth comfortably can your equipment handle?
I would say it just depends on how heavy the snow is. And actually plowing bike paths, being able to see them is another challenge that we run into, and actually pushing, 4 inches of wet, heavy snow can be a real challenge because we have pickup trucks, so, each storm is absolutely different. And if we are anticipating a 8 or 10 inch snowfall, we absolutely would like to remove, half of it if possible, halfway through it or whatever. If it's super windy, if it's a huge snowstorm, we'll deviate and we'll assist Mark on, big storms too. So, it's allowing us the flexibility to, in a perfect world, if it all comes and stops at the, you know, at the same time or whatever, you know, we can remove half and then go back and remove another half. But each storm just can be different. So.
Yeah, we're not looking, you know, if it's a Saturday and it snows 4 inches and it's a light powdery snow, we're not calling in people to come in on overtime to plow the city campus when no meetings are occurring. We're waiting till Monday morning to get there. The guys would probably come in early before every staff gets in, get the parking lots cleared so people can get in. But again, we're not doing that on a Saturday or a Sunday. But if it's a wet, heavy snow, you know, maybe on a Monday night or a Tuesday night when there's a council meeting, you know, we're staying late to get that off just because if it's 8-10 inches wet and heavy, we have trouble getting that off the parking lot.
To me, that makes a lot of sense for the Class 1. I'm not so sure that I agree with it on the Class 2 in the middle of a storm. And maybe I should ask Don and the bike riders around here, if it's, you know, like I said, in the middle of a big storm, are there people out there riding their bikes that you're going to need that? I can see where it makes sense for Class 1. Fire station parking lots, City Hall, to me that makes a lot of sense, but I'm not so sure that I agree with the Class 2. But again, if this gives you the discretion to do it under certain conditions, that's a whole different story than, you know, we're going to go out and do this one way or the other because our policy says we can or we have to. We can is different than we have to, I guess.
Well, yeah, I guess I was wondering where it says select bike paths, and then on Class 2, it used to say see Appendix 3. I guess I am out there when it snows. My wife is out there when it snows, and we've had to find alternative transportation at times because the bike paths that are commonly used for transportation haven't been plowed yet. So when we say select bike paths, which ones are we talking about?
So Appendix 2 shows the Parks Division, and the Class 1 are the blue lines, and then Class 2 is the orange, and Class 3 is the red. So you'll kind of see that in Appendix 2.
Tim, can you elaborate a little more on that? Again, in the roadway one, I can follow that. Most of that's principal arterials or collector routes. So I can see the blue there. I can't differentiate for the certain bike routes why this is a blue and this is an orange. Do you have a volume count or something that you can point to that says this one's more important than the other? Or
Jordan, do you know?
So the only Class 1 bike path that I can think of is the school path that leads through Seminole Glen up to the school. That's the only bike path. All the others are sidewalks. And so I believe by city ordinance, we have to have the sidewalks cleared within 24 hours after a snow stops falling. So that's a city ordinance. So that's why all the sidewalks are Class 1. But the only bike path, I believe, is the school path. Just to, try to get kids, a path to school. So that's the only bike path that I can think of.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, thanks for the clarity. The only then question to that, with that logic, if it's got a sidewalk, it gets one. I see like McKee, there's a bunch of red dots, so that means
McKee
you're not
Road?
On the road. Yeah. Does that mean you're not doing the median?
Those are additional areas, so those are the median. If I'm
Those would be Class 3.
yeah.
No, but again, I'm trying to follow in the logic. If it's got a sidewalk, you're going to hit it first. I assume there's a sidewalk there. I want to get from one side of McKee to the other side. If you're not hitting that right away, a pedestrian's going to be standing in a big pile trying to get across.
Those median crossings, we save those till the very last because the streets guys will fill them in multiple times.
Understand.
So we try to coordinate the best we can to do this once because, they are long days. So we do try to come through. The last thing we'll do is clear those median crossings. and like McKee Road sidewalk, we do that one multiple times, you know, because actually that's one that we have a really hard time making it through. So they'll fill us in, we plow it, they'll fill us in, you know. So that is one that just is a challenge. We do try our best to let the streets guys, you know, at least get a head start, and so we're not doing things twice. You know, it's kind of a coordination thing to do the best we can, but yeah, we get filled in quite a bit, just like your driveway in front of your house, right? You go out, shovel, the streets guys comes fill it in, you know. So we have the same thing happening with us, but we do our best to coordinate the work to, you know, lessen the amount of times that we have to go back and clean stuff up. If that answers your question.
I understand the coordination. I understand that it's probably no different than any other sidewalk area. They plow in someone's sidewalk, someone's plowing it right back out, and you're playing the up and back game. I would have anticipated it being blue or at least orange, because it gives you the impression that that's the last thing you're going to hit are those, versus it sounds like you're hitting it multiple times throughout a storm event. But, you know.
So the median crossings take a special piece of equipment typically too. Like we use our tool cats or different pieces because there's such tight, you know, areas in traffic and things. So it just, there's so many nuances to these routes, believe it or not. It's kind of, you know, you do the best you can to try to get everything cleaned up. So, but yeah, the crossings are one of the last things that we try to do, for whatever reason. I mean, sure, they could be moved up if they are a priority. That's just how we've always dealt with them.
Roads, are you throwing everything to the right, or is it going to median?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yep.
So.
It's just the way the trucks are set up. Plow is angled to the right, wings angled to the right.
Yeah, so I guess I wouldn't expect a lot of snow to be pushed into the refuge islands.
No, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
I assumed he's throwing everything to the right, and you'll naturally get some snow there. That's why I thought you could hit it earlier, but that's fine.
The ones on the side get a lot.
That's where we do them all at the same time. Truly, you know, yeah, it all does go to the right, and we have to we go across the whole thing, typically.
I did notice that for all the road work, it always says overtime is authorized, but when it comes to the pedestrian and bike facilities, it doesn't say that. I mean, given that 40% of Fitchburg residents don't drive a car, I feel like we ought to be taking care of the pedestrian and bike facilities with the same general priority that we do the roads.
Class 1, the last sentence on states use of overtime to meet the above goal is authorized, and then Class 2, limited use of overtime to meet the above goal is authorized unless otherwise directed by the Director of Public Works. The Class 3, which is the additional areas, are the only ones that should be completed during regular work hours.
And that would include, well, I mean, so that's the pedestrian crossings, as well as, I think, the bus shelter pads, right, that also says during work hours.
Yeah, the select parking lots and bike paths are Class 2, so limited use of overtime to meet the above goals is authorized. And then city campus and fire station use of overtime is authorized for Class 1.
Under additional areas, it lists concrete bus pads and bus shelters. That says all work should be completed after road snow removal is completed during regular work hours.
That's for roads.
Is there, I mean, so does the, how do the bus shelters and the concrete bus pads get cleared? Are there multiple groups out there clearing them?
The street guys do it after we're done plowing snow. We go do the bus shelters and the bus pads.
Okay, but only during regular work hours?
Correct.
Generally. There'll be times that we'll reach out to Tim, say it snows quite a bit on a Friday night or a Saturday night, where it's going to be, and he'll authorize us to clean the bus shelters that weekend. You know, if it's, because sometimes it gets to be a lot for people to get up and over.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, I mean, sometimes it's impossible to reach the beg button because there's a pile of snow in front of it as well.
But then there'll be a lot of times, you know, if you plow snow on a Sunday or something, we'll do it right away Monday morning.
Yeah. So again, I'm just, wondering why we'll do overtime by right for a lot of this stuff, but not for the, for the people standing at the bus stop or trying to cross the street.
We can add it. It allows us the flexibility to make that call. If it is a weekend where we need to come in and get it done so someone's not waiting in 2 feet of snow for Monday to come around, we can do that. So we can add that to, it'd be paragraph 5 under the streets, and then paragraph 3, the additional areas for parks.
Yeah.
And did you want language just limited use of overtime to meet the above goal as authorized?
I would think, yeah, same as class 2, probably.
Class 2. Yep, we can make that change.
And I also wondered why some, like am I reading that correctly, that the pedestrian crosswalks and medians are done by parks instead of streets?
Yeah, parks do them.
Yeah, the equipment's small equipment.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Can't
Yeah.
put the big stuff on there.
Okay.
Those are generally, like I say, just one of the last things that we try to do because
Well, right. You don't want to.
you just want to do it once and be done.
Yeah.
So it's
Sure.
just like once everything stopped falling, once the street guys are kind of cleaning or getting done, they plow McKee and Fish Hatchery Road so many times that if I do them on the first pass, I'm going to be going back. So we'll plow the bike path along Fish Hatchery Road, but we'll leave the crossings until the last because they're going to get filled in multiple times. So we'll come through and we'll go across we'll go up and down Fish Hatchery and PD and get those crossings after the street guys, after it's pretty much done. Mm-hmm. So we'll plow the whole bike path right away, right? Or, and get that open for, the large majority of it. And then once everything's kind of done, we come back and clean the crossings to allow the cross traffic a little better. So that's kind of how it goes. If there's huge piles, if we can, each storm is different, like I say, but, big storms, we will do it twice, if, it's, you do what you can to try to keep things going.
I have a question about the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's smart salting for roads. Doesn't Wisconsin have one, or do we like Minnesota's better?
I had that same question. I went looking for Ben Schulte, our environmental engineer, and he wasn't in his office, but maybe Mark has a little...
That is, I don't know that answer. Since we've been really monitoring our salt usage and using liquids and stuff, this has been a table that we've used. I think they were kind of maybe on the forefront of, this de-icing and.
I was just curious when I read it because I thought, well, you know, Wisconsin probably gets as much snow and ice as Minnesota does, so it seems unusual that Wisconsin wouldn't have their own, or do they use Minnesota's? It was just a curiosity question more than anything else.
Quick questions. When the BRT comes live, does that change any of your operations, either one?
We haven't talked maintenance of the BRT shelters, but I'm assuming it may be kind of the same bus. If it's a bus shelter within the city, we may be responsible for that. I do know they are putting in warmers to melt the snow, but obviously wind and all that, we're still anticipating to have to go in there and remove snow out of the BRT station. But as far as the roads, it's very minimal road modifications that would impact mark plowing.
And then just on your de-icing table, do we use a sand salt mix at all?
Not sand salt mix anymore, no. We'll use sand when it gets really cold, really cold, where you can't use salt anymore.
Do you pre-treat it, or treat it at least with some de-icing chemicals so it
The sand
eats
or
a
the
little
salt
bit?
we do.
But not the sand.
No.
You won't do any
No.
pre-wetting,
No.
have it eat, because I do see it blow just right off
Yeah.
a lot of times.
We actually use lime chips instead of sand.
Oh.
And it's a real coarse material that when you put it down, it stays, it doesn't blow off.
Okay.
But, I mean, that's pretty cold. That's when we're having problems with drifting and the police are calling because we have an intersection.
Yep.
That's really icy, and you can't salt it, because if you salt on a
Understand,
drifting area,
yeah.
it'll just turn it to ice.
I've heard some places having success with, treating their sand, or in your case, it's a gypsum, and then that's enough to eat a little bit deeper in there, and it just doesn't blow then, but, okay.
I do know if you get anything has a melting prop, some kind of salt that's doing a little bit, it'll turn that snow and ice to a little bit of water, and then the wind blowing across it, it just makes
I
ice.
understand the sand. I'm thinking the
Yep.
sand in your really cold, icy stuff, you put a little bit of chemical pre-wet in there, then it melts enough so that the sand eats in there, but, okay.
I'm looking at Appendix 2, and I don't see Capital City Trail or the Badger State Military Ridge. Is the city in charge of any portions of those?
So the Badger State Trail we were doing it the last year or two. A volunteer did it previously and decided not to do it. So DNR had reached out to us to plow that last 2 years. Now this current budget year, they incorporated a new plowing truck that they'll be able to take that over. So it's off our plate.
Yeah, and Dane County does the Cap City Trail. So we
Okay.
don't do Cap City or Badger State. We'll do some connectors up to them and different things like that, but yeah, we're not responsible for those.
Okay, so like the section of the Cap City between Fish Hatchery Road and Seminole, for instance, that's the county still,
Yep,
even though
Dane County.
that section is the Cap City path, not the Cap City Trail, is that right? Where there's like a distinction between the parts where you have to have a pass to ride on it, and parts where it's free because it's a transportation route within the cities.
Yeah, Dane County does it.
Okay.
I've never done the Cap City Trail or path or any portion of the Cap City. Yep.
Okay.
But I only had one final comment, Tim, for your guys. Again, last year, that big snowstorm we had, followed by that really cold, kudos to you guys. 'Cause driving Fish Hatchery, you did not have the hard pack on there. Yes, there were some spots with ice and stuff, but you didn't have to peel it up with a scraper and pay a lot more afterwards once you got into the Madison line there. So.
That's credit to Mark and Jordan and their staff.
All right, if there's nothing else, we can move on. To agenda item 6A, I will entertain a motion to approve resolution R-18824, authorizing rejection of the snowplow and truck equipment bid.
I'll move to approve resolution R-188-24.
I'll second it.
Okay. Tim, I'm going to let you walk us through this.
So the 2023 capital plow equipment budget included funding for the purchase of a plow truck, snow plow, and truck equipment. The purchase of a 2025 International was approved by resolution R-13623 with the snow plow and equipment to be separately. So that resolution back in 2023 was for the chassis, which is the engine, transmission, frame, wheels, and cab. So this is for the actual plow and associated truck equipment. After purchase of the chassis, the remaining funds in the budget are approximately $62,500 to purchase the needed snow plow, wing, and equipment. We advertised for bids in the Wisconsin State Journal on September 25th and October 2nd. And bids were also placed on questcdn.com with bids due October 9th. One bid was received from Madison Truck Equipment with a base bid of $182,766, which was substantially greater than the remaining available funds in the budget. Staff's recommendation is to reject the bid and rebid at a later date after revising the current specifications. So we're looking for council approval to reject the bid received for the snowplow and truck equipment.
Did we already purchase the plow truck chassis?
Yes, and it's built sitting at Lakeside right now.
And obviously, we can't use it until we get the snow plow or the plow and the truck equipment.
Correct.
And so how long do you think it'll take you to revise the specs and rebid it? Do we need that equipment for this year?
Yes, it's actually a truck that was put in the budget for the addition of Town of Madison. So it's replacing an older truck that we're using right now. So we'll have to continue to use the older truck.
So what's the time frame for rebidding?
Rebidding, I would say, Mark, next month or two.
Hopefully within the next month. I've been working on the spec sheet.
So what do you think you can do to the specs to cut the price in a third? by 2/3?
I don't know.
Are you hoping for more bidders? Or?
I'm hoping for more bidders, really. Hoping maybe we can just kind of make it a plain Jane bid that because it's a lot more than we paid for our last truck, is what it is.
I mean, it's not, I guess, outside the realm of possibility that people have tripled the pricing. I mean, we were talking in recent months about a new fire truck that quadrupled in price since 2022.
I guess it's worth trying to rebid it down and see if it is still that way, and if that isn't it, look at A, where else we can get the money, or B, what is the next plan?
Yeah, the city did bid out the front counters, and the bid on that came in at $180,000. We went out to bid, and it came in at $90,000. So sometimes you just hit it at the wrong time. It doesn't hurt to. Like Mark mentioned, we still have a truck that's functioning that can get us through. So if we could save, several $1,000s on that, that's worth the wait.
Should we have bid this in the spring or something?
Well, that's the problem, is these chassis are so backlogged for getting them. I forget exactly when we ordered this one. I think it was in 2022. we actually ordered this chassis because we have a replacement with that highway equipment replacement fund to keep up, the fleet.
Keep the fleet up, yeah.
And I think we're behind 3 right now that have been ordered and are just not coming. And all the manufacturers are the same. It's still from the pandemic backlog.
But now we have a chassis waiting for the other equipment.
We do.
We don't have
And
that, so.
I've been told
I
it's
think
taken a
worth
year and a half to build
yeah.
these trucks now.
Yeah, it's worth rebidding, worth a try. I feel is the right thing to do.
Do you have a idea? Is Dane County getting gouged or Madison? Do we know?
So I feel like Dane County might build their own, put their own trucks together. They have staff in-house that builds them.
Can they do it for us cheaper?
I don't know if they take on municipality.
Yeah, I was going to say if the second bid doesn't work out, we may have to reach out to Dane County and see if they would be willing to do an intergovernmental agreement for that. But they may be
in the past,
busy.
years ago, they built smaller municipalities' trucks.
All right, anything further? Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R-188-24 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And we lost Dave Herbst, so it's just the 4 of us here.
Must have lost him.
Moving on to agenda item 6B. I will entertain a motion to approve Resolution R-181-24, approving agreement. Nope, sorry. We're going to postpone this one. I'll entertain a motion to postpone Resolution R-181-24 to our next meeting on November 18th.
I'll move to delay Resolution R-181-24. I don't remember the exact words you said. But we're not going to address it
Postpone to
now.
our next meeting.
Postpone to our next meeting, Resolution R-181-24.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor of postponement signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to announcements. Next Board of Public Works meeting will be Monday, November 18th. Same room, same time, 2 weeks from today.
I will not be able to attend that meeting, so.
Okay,
I'll be here.
any other discussion? Otherwise, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I so move we adjourn.
Second? Okay. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 6:26.